Thank you for joining us here on NCN for this important interview. I have with me the Attorney General and Minister of Legal Affairs, the Honorable Mohabir Anil Nandlall. Minister Nandlall, thank you so much for joining me.
It's a pleasure once again.
Now, Minister, we've seen several articles over the last few days that have spoken or have responded rather to your comments that you made on Saturday regarding the engagement that happened in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And some of the concerns have been implying that you are in the business of shutting people up. How would you respond to that?
Well, it all started even prior to the engagement in St. Vincent. A commentator on the social media of some prominence in the legal fraternity published a few comments on his Facebook page to the effect that the Vice President, Mr. Bharat Jagdev, has assured that military bases or military base will be established in Guyana of some foreign country. And he surmised and speculated that that will be the basis of a failure of the impending talks scheduled to take place in St. Vincent between President Ali and President Maduro. I responded by first emphasizing that the Vice President is nowhere on the public record as asserting that there will be any military base established in Guyana for any country. However, the Vice President has assured that Guyana will do all that is lawfully necessary to defend its territorial integrity and sovereignty. I posited that that is not only the Vice President's view, but that is the view of the government of Guyana, and I dare say the entire population of Guyana.
Yeah.
I also was critical of the speculative conclusion that the commentator arrived at, that as a result of his own concocted hypothesis, the talks will fail because President Maduro will never agree to the establishment of another country's military base in Guyana. And I said that that conclusion flows from the false hypothesis of an assertion of the creation of a military base in Guyana.
Right.
And that it is irresponsible and reckless for one to speculate on either of the two matters. Firstly, that there is going to be the establishment of a military base in Guyana, and secondly, that the talks will fail even before they even commenced. And I cautioned against persons pontificating publicly in this reckless and irresponsible manner on matters of national importance, more particularly at this crucial juncture of Guyana's history, where its territorial sovereignty is at stake, because there is a possibility of misinterpretation, or worse yet, a possibility that the other side can take advantage of these positions and hold them against Guyana. I made those statements in a Facebook post, and it is there.
Yeah.
We went to the talks, and the talks were concluded in the manner that everybody knows. When I returned to Guyana, I decided to do a post chronicling in a very summarized and concise way what I believe were the essential takeaway from the engagement. I said that Guyana did not cede an inch in relation to its position. Our position remains unchanged. However, we have secured much from the engagement. I didn't enumerate the benefits that Guyana derived from the engagement because I thought that is public knowledge. I reiterated the caution which I made prior to the talks, and I proceeded to make the crucial point that exactly what I was cautioning against played out at the talks. That is, President Maduro had with him a compilation of public statements, critical public statements in relation to a number of issues, including ExxonMobil and their operations here, as well as legal proceedings filed against ExxonMobil and critical statements made about the operations generally. And his point that he was making was that Exxon's operations here, in which he claimed was in the disputed territory, was not even supported by Guyanese. That his criticism of the grant of the license to operators within that sector in the what he is describing as the disputed territory was not only his criticisms, but Guyanese, by and large, were expressing their similar views. And he also cited other operations within the Essequibo area for which he collected information that are critical of those operations, all emanating from Guyanese as reported in the media. And he was using that to bolster his narrative that the people of Essequibo and the people of Guyana by extension were not benefiting from these investments that we are speaking about. And he had them all chronicled in a huge stash of documents which he had with him on his table. Now that is a reality. We didn't cause that to happen. The government didn't cause that to happen. And all I did in the post was to draw attention to that reality. And I made the connection to my original post to say this is exactly what I was speaking about. Irresponsible statements, public criticisms made within Guyana being used by Maduro to support his narrative. Now, I did not in any form or fashion express support for what Maduro is doing. Neither did I in any form or fashion say anything that ought to be interpreted as restricting freedom of expression. When I wrote what I wrote, I was very conscious of the right of persons to criticize, the right of persons to free expression. I was very conscious that our government is a democratic government and encourages democratic norms and rights and freedoms in the society, fundamental of which is freedom of expression. My post remains on Facebook unaltered, and it was widely carried in the media. Again, I reiterate that was not my intention to restrict freedom of expression. All I was doing was to inform those who are exercising this freedom to be aware what use is made of their expressions. And to say, if you wish to travel that road, you must understand and appreciate that there is this real consequence. That is to say, the enemy is collating and compiling what you say and is throwing it in our face. Whatever way, I proceeded to say, whatever weight is attached to them, I don't know. They may not carry any weight at all. But what I do know, that they do not in any form or fashion helps Guyana's cause. And I made that point expressly. I alluded attention also to the fact that when we had the border controversy with Suriname, loose public statements made in Guyana by public officials harmed us in that case. Those are statements of fact.
Yeah.
As I said, I never attempted to prohibit anyone or to suggest that anyone must refrain from exercising their right to free expression. But to just alert you and those who choose to do that, to appreciate that there is a consequence. Right?
Yeah. AG, what I also saw, if I can, in addition to these critical comments of your statements on Saturday, was a letter in the Stabroek News, an article rather in the Stabroek News that is pretty much summarized in the headline that says, and I'm quoting here, AG should be concerned Guyana has ceded legislative sovereignty to Exxon, and it's been credited here to Christopher Ram.
All right. Even before I get to Christopher Ram, why the reaction? Why this reaction? You know why? There is a spasm of guilt. Those who are coming out and criticizing me are the ones who apparently have been making these very public criticisms, whether they are justified or constructive or unconstructive. That is not the issue. They have made the criticism and it is being used by Maduro. Whether Maduro is right to do so or not is immaterial. I never venture a judgment call on the meritocracy or unmeritocracy of his use of the information. That is why I said, whatever weight is placed upon them, the reality is they do not help Guyana's cause. These commentators obviously felt the spasm of guilt because they don't for one moment want the population to perceive them as contributing to Venezuela's cause. And I suppose it's a fear that is justified. But you can't hold me responsible for the fear. I am simply reporting on a reality, a factual state of affairs that I certainly did not contribute to. Neither did the government of Guyana. So that is the dilemma that they have found themselves in. So it's a conscience attack that they are repelling from. So what is the easiest thing to do? attack the messenger. I only brought the message. I didn't contribute to the state of affairs. They did. So what they want, and they're using their criticisms of me, is to exonerate their conduct in the eyes of the public. And I suppose they have a right to do so. But don't throw me under the bus in the process. So let's go to Christopher Ram.
Yeah.
He called me Sunday and he made reference to the conversation he had with me. So I'm going to refer to the conversation. He called me and he informed me that he hopes that I am not suggesting that fair and justified criticisms should not be made of Exxon and of other matters in the country. And I said, of course not. That is not my intention. That cannot be my intention. I'm a lawyer. That is not the government's position either. As a government, we encourage free expression and we encourage all of the recognized freedoms and civil liberties that the citizens of Guyana are entitled to. Yeah. However, I am just averting your attention to the fact that when you exercise these civil liberties and freedoms, this is a particular consequence that we have now to look at, and persons have to conduct themselves accordingly. It's a matter for the citizenry. But they must know of this reality. And I thought that he understood, because he said that is a fair position. He did tell me that is a fair position. And I don't think that he will deny that. I believe that he mentioned that in his article. But he has proceeded to put at my doorstep a plethora of alleged wrongs committed by ExxonMobil, according to him, and wants me to be concerned about them, and why I am not concerned about them. So in defense of himself, and obviously in recognizing that he may have been one of the commentators whose materials may have been part of President Maduro's compendium, he now wants to repel attraction from himself and put me now in a critical light. And that's what he's doing. So he chronicles a whole host of ills which he's alleging ExxonMobil is guilty of, and asked me rhetorically why I am not concerned about them. First of all, I don't know whether he's right or wrong in the allegations that he's making. But more importantly, he alleges a number of illegalities against the company and the operations of the company. He alleges a number of unconstitutionalities against the company and the operations of the company. He is a lawyer. He must know that he has a right to go to the court and file legal proceedings to rectify or address the legal wrongs of which he's accusing the company.
Yeah.
And in fact, he has been part, either directly or indirectly, of cases filed against the company. And I was part of those proceedings. One of them in particular, I remember, filed by Glenn Lal, in which he asked the court to declare the contract illegal. And they lost. I was sitting in the court. They lost the case. So rather than Ram throwing these burdens upon me. I don't know how true they are, how authentic his information and allegation is, how accurate they are. But rather than throw it upon me, he has all the legal wherewithal as a citizen of this country, utilizing the locus standi doctrine to file legal proceedings, because what he's accusing the company of are public wrongs, which a citizen of Guyana can approach the court for redress. Let's take the headline of the article.
Yeah.
The AG should be concerned about
Concerned that Guyana has ceded legislative sovereignty.
Legislative sovereignty. Let's examine that concept. Sovereignty in our constitution belongs to the people. Legislative sovereignty, as I understand it, must mean the power of the parliament to make laws, to pass legislation. The Constitution has resided that power in the Parliament. Anyone who feels that the Constitution has been violated in any form or fashion is free to approach the court and file a case to rectify the constitutional violation. Mr. Christopher Ram and those of his ilk, they love the public stage. This is a great opportunity for him to take the public stage and win public adoration. They love that. It lubricates their existence. So, rather than throw it on me, my poor narrow shoulders, he is an accomplished accountant, an auditor. He's an attorney at law. Let him go to the court and say to the court that, look, this contract is in violation of the Constitution, because it interferes with the sovereignty that the Constitution has resided in Parliament to make laws. That should be an easy case for him. Let him go and do that. And he will win public acclaim with justification, rather than using my statement and manipulating it to suit his particular end, because he is fearful that he may get public criticism for his commentaries finding themselves within Mr. Maduro's bundle of documents. That is not my fault, and I will not accept responsibility for that. And I never said anything anywhere, certainly not in the post, which was widely carried in the press and is still on my Facebook page, that would suggest that I am in any way stifling free expression or censoring the populace from expressing their views. I was simply drawing attention to the consequences, justifiably or unjustifiably, of the exercise of that freedom of expression.
AG, just before we wrap up, so the public can rest assured that government in no way is attempting to muffle the voices of these commentators, but rather allowing them to be a bit more, take into more consideration what they're saying before they say it.
The government can intend no other thing. And I certainly did not, in any form or fashion, intended to muzzle free expression. And anyone reading my comment or commentary rationally ought to come to that conclusion. Yeah. But as I said, in the conversation with me Sunday, Mr. Ram did disclose to me, since he is carrying our private conversation in the public domain, he did disclose to me that he believes that Mr. President Maduro has used some commentary of his published in the Stabrook News as part of his political narrative in Venezuela. Mr. Ram has told me that in that conversation. And that is why I believe that it is some element of a conscience attack or some emotive element of guilt that is exciting these unfair and unjustified reactions to what I have said. And his entire narrative of throwing in my lap a whole host of alleged illegalities and irregularities that he claims Exxon is guilty of is a complete non sequitur. What that has to do with anything? If he feels that they have been committed, as I said, he has the legal capabilities and I suppose the resourceful wherewithal to address them effectively, and let him go and do that. They have tried. I know that he has been part of legal processes, either directly or indirectly. And today they have abysmally failed. And that's the truth. And I am not defending ExxonMobil here. I am simply narrating what the facts are, which the public records can easily substantiate.
Yeah. AG, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to have this discussion with me today.
You're welcome.
You've heard from the Attorney General and Minister of Legal Affairs, the Honorable Mohabir Anil Nandlall, in relation to several of these comments that have been permeating the media over the last few days. My name is Shaquan Gill, and I'm saying goodbye for now.